What's going on, guys? Co from cosports.com here with your week 2 top 5 fantasy football wide receiver rankings. We're going to go 5 through 1, but we also have a sleeper pick for this week, and I know you guys want to hear sleeper, so let's get right into the sleeper of the week for wide receiver week 2. Kendrick Bourne, New England Patriots. I know, but hear me out. He is projected outside of the top 50 this week, and a lot has to do with all the talk about his rift with the Patriots coaching staff. However, reports say that owner Robert Kraft had a conversation with the coaching staff after week 1 when Bourne only had 1 catch on 1 target. On the bright side, that 1 catch was for 41 yards. And you've seen Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne connect on big plays in the past. They had 7 games last season where they had plays of 20 yards or more. So I do think that Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne are going to get more involved this week. Bourne's going to be involved with the play calling, and whatever's going on between him and Matt Patricia, they better put it to bed. And I think it's a good opportunity where not a lot of people are going to be playing Kendrick Bourne in daily fantasy tournaments, but he's a great option this week, in my opinion. The Steelers' defense wasn't great against the passing game last week. They allowed 299 passing yards, but also they're going to be without TJ Watt. So Mac Jones is going to have more time to throw the ball, sit back, and let Kendrick Bourne get downfield and create big plays. So I think that's a great option for a fantasy football sleeper. Week 2, Kendrick Bourne, New England Patriots. All right, now the top 5. Starting with number 5, Michael Pittman Jr., Indianapolis Colts. And I know, I talked in the preseason on one of the episodes, and I admit I was wrong. I didn't buy into the hype for Pittman. It's fine. He finished wide receiver 5 in week 1. And just because his team gagged in overtime doesn't mean that he doesn't hold good fantasy value going into week 2. The Colts will play the Jaguars, who gave up 305 passing yards last week. So look for the Colts to take advantage of that, even though they have Jonathan Taylor, and we have Jonathan Taylor ranked in the top 5 for fantasy running backs this week. If you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. And I know a lot of you guys will be like, oh, how do you have a wide receiver and a running back in the top 5 on the same team? Well, check out where they finished last week. Pittman finished 5, wide receiver 5, and Taylor finished running back 2. So I think the Colts are going to come out and play desperate to get an early lead after what happened to them last week. There was a lot of hype. Matt Ryan coming to town. He's supposed to be the solution. Carson Wentz was the problem. Okay, make your changes, and you tie the Texans. So they cannot afford to lose this game. They cannot afford to let the Jaguars hang around in this game. So I think the Colts are going to come out, play desperately, and I think Taylor's going to get his yards on the ground. We know that, but that's going to set up the pass for Matt Ryan, and then reaping the benefits will be Michael Pittman Jr., your number 5 fantasy wide receiver for week 2. Number 4, Jeudy, Denver Broncos. And some people will give me shit for putting Jeudy in the top 5. That's fine. But let's just remind everyone, we took Jeudy's player prop on Monday Night Football over 59.5 yards, and he covered it on 1 catch. All right. He connected with Russell Wilson for a 67-yard touchdown in that game, but the offense did struggle in the red zone. I say that because I still think Jeudy had potential for more points if the offense didn't struggle in the red zone, and Russell Wilson could have made a few more things happen. No more further comments on that one. 86% of the public money was on the Broncos in that game. Jeudy still finished with 104 yards on 4 catches and that touchdown. He was wide receiver number 12, although the preseason rankings had him in the 20s. So, I mean, he already beat that. I think he has potential to finish in the top 5 this week. I truly feel that way with the Broncos going up against the Texans this week. Houston allowed 340 passing yards last week. They also allowed 4 wide receivers, right? Check this stat. Texans allowed 4 wide receivers to come up with catches of 20 yards or more. So I see big play potential written all over this game for Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy. That connection is going to be a great fantasy connection, not just this week, but all season long. But this week sets up nicely. Broncos home opener, trying to bounce back from an ugly game, even though it's a short week. I like the Broncos in that game. They're favored by 10 points. So look for Jerry Jeudy to be in your top 5 fantasy football wide receivers this week. Number 3, we got a Monday Nighter. Stephon Diggs. The Bills were the most impressive team in week 1 on Thursday night opener when they really just blew out the defending Super Bowl champs and the Rams. Stephon Diggs finished as wide receiver number 6 for fantasy in week 1, and it feels like he could have had even more points if the Bills didn't turn the ball over 3 times early in that game. He's going up against a Titans defense on Monday Night Football this week, and the Titans were at the bottom of the league against the pass last season. I do expect Josh Allen to pick the Titans apart, and Diggs should be stacking up the fantasy points this week. Number 2, got another Monday night guy, Justin Jefferson, and I know he's unstoppable. That's why he's on the list. He's going to be on the list until he falls off the list for not performing, and I just don't see that happening. So what a game he had in week 1. He led all fantasy wide receivers with 184 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He's going up against the Eagles, and they gave up a lot of yards on the ground last week. So we have Jefferson's teammate Dalvin Cook pinned for a big game, and we have him on our top 5 for running backs. But we also expect plenty of points from Jefferson in this game. He has gone over 100 receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 regular season games, and plus he has scored 3 times in that stretch, obviously 2 times last week. Vikings fans have high hopes, and for good reason. Look for another big performance from Jefferson this week. All right, little drum roll. Can we get your number 1 fantasy wide receiver for this week? Are you ready for it? I'm sure you guys probably already guessed it. Davante Adams, no surprise there. He finished 3rd in wide receiver points for week 1. He had 30.1 fantasy points, and he had a great game with his former college roommate, Derek Carr. The connection is there. They looked good. I mean, they lost the game, but these two connected and linked up and put up fantasy points, and I think that's going to be the case all season. All right. The outcomes of the games don't really matter as long as the players are putting up fantasy points, depending on what you bet on. But Davante had 10 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. Up next for him this week is another massive game. The Raiders will face the Cardinals, who allowed 360 passing yards and 44 points to the Chiefs last week. Also, I mean, you just look at Travis Kelce went off against them, so you really don't think that the Cardinals are going to have any answer for Davante. I think Davante is going to have a field day this week. So those are our top 5 fantasy football wide receivers for week 2. And then, of course, our sleeper of the week, Kendrick Bourne. But let's just recap the top 5. We got number 5, Michael Pittman. Number 4, Jerry Jeudy. Number 3, Stephon Diggs. Number 2, Justin Jefferson. And number 1, Davante Adams. If you guys need more sports betting, NFL picks, picks against the spread, over-unders, player props, team totals, parlays, get over to coastsports.com and check out our VIP picks. And check out our VIP membership options. We have affordable options for all size bettors. You can get a day pass for as little as $10 to $15. So hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, at KOF Sports. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Next video up will be our tight end rankings for week 2.